And naturally, I'm a Tottenham man, obviously. I can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory night at White Hart Lane. This great and historic football club.
Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable! Wow, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
This is there to tap in. What a fantastic run. He scored! And it's turned home. Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America. Welcome back, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us today for the Hotspur America podcast. I'm Ken. With me today is Sam Zerwell. Sam, how are you doing, man?
I'm well. Good to be here.
Good to hear it. So, and Simon, you're with me too, right?
Yes, I am.
What are you doing over there? You're looking at the championship table or something?
Yes, I'm excited for Bournemouth. Yeah, all but shouting before they get promoted. I don't think Middlesbrough or Bournemouth will collude to affect the results in the final weekend by the 19 goals that's in favour of Bournemouth's goal difference. So welcome to the Premier League. And obviously congrats to Aurelio Gomez and Watford on gaining promotion last weekend. Be interesting to see who ends up being champions of the championship.
Yeah, definitely no capitulations to happen. Congrats, big time to Watford and to Middlesbrough for getting in. The playoffs look like they're going to be rather interesting as well. There's some really strong teams. I've been had my eye on Ipswich. They've been my team to watch. They had a little bit of a stumble last couple of months, but they've managed to scrape their way back into position to, along with Derby and Norwich and who's the other one?
Well, Brentford and Wolves are still in with a shout.
Yeah.
Derby has to lose, and either Brentford or Wolves, one of them has to have a better result to nick that 6th spot. Because Ipswich, even if they lose, it could go to goal difference with Brentford. I'd have to look at the fixtures to see, what the combinations are for the last weekend. But it's exciting. We mentioned this last week. It's exciting that it's coming down to the final weekend. That's what sport should always be about. I mean, let's look at the top of the Premier League. It's kind of boring. I mean, how many people said after this weekend, let's just end this season now? It's, there's nothing exciting going. Obviously, the relegation fight will probably go down to the final weekend. We had a lot of teams doing the business again this week. Leicester, I mean, what's that, 4 in a row? They're out, but Sunderland dropped into it. Burnley shot themselves in the foot. I mean, that game, they missed a penalty, and a minute later Leicester go down the other end and score. So, it's definitely exciting there. When we talk about the City game, we can certainly talk about how Aston Villa gave them a shot, but ultimately, they didn't get any points out of that game. So, there's definitely excitement at the bottom of the Premier League and at the top of the Championship, and that's beautiful.
Now, do they do the same thing as the Premier League, where all the last week's games are played at the exact same time, so that nobody knows the results?
Yeah, they will do the Championship, but I'm not sure if it's Saturday. I think it's probably Saturday versus what the Prem does on Sundays.
Okay, cool.
But I think all the Football League divisions are ending this weekend. I think they're all playing their 46th game. There's some kind of, I won't say sad, but obviously if you're a Tranmere Rovers supporter, it's sad because they got dumped out of the league for the first time in 94 years.
Wow.
I know they're definitely the poor cousins of the Liverpool football teams, but it wasn't that long ago that John Aldridge was playing for them in the old Division 2, and they were flying back in those days, and I think that was late 80s, early 90s, and now they are out of the Football League.
That's pretty good. I mean, that 94 years.
Yeah.
That's almost done. Their fans must be distraught. I mean, you see the pictures every year, right, on TV, and hands and faces are buried in their hands, and tears are streaming down. And I don't think it matters if you're in the Premier League or the second division. You never want to see your team get relegated because it's got to be heartbreaking. I can't imagine.
And it seems to have happened an awful lot more in recent years that notably bigger clubs, certainly in their history, have struggled and gone out. I mean, almost out to Portsmouth, and again, they're in the wrong half of the table in League Two. And just 4 years ago, they were in the Premier League, so they have certainly struggled. And then Barnet, I think they went down last season, where Edgar Davids was player manager with them, and fortunately they've rebounded straight up from the conference. They already assured their promotion, so that they'll be back in the Football League next year. But some pretty decent teams. I think Luton. They were in the conference, I believe, last season and wanted to come back. And back in the 80s, Luton were in the first division. And other teams that have fallen from grace, and when I say fallen, not just dropped down a division, but dropped down to League Two or even out of the league. And that's the scary face that's in football today, with chairmans chopping and changing, and I've got money and we'll save you, and then boom, it all dries up because it's all gone Pete Tong, and this is the kind of thing that happens. And look at Leeds United. Granted that they're in the Championship, but they've been there for 10 years since they got relegated.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. The fall from grace, that club. And a storied club. I mean, my God. I mean, that was what they were. It's funny, right? With Liverpool and United now having the rivalry that they do, but the rivalry back in the 70s was Leeds and United, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I was, I think I was going to pick on a couple of notable articles in this month's 442, but I was reading the Alan Smith one-on-one, and he was a Leeds United player and a Leeds-born lad, and that was the team he supported. And at one point, when he was young and probably immature, he made the comment, "I'll never play for Manchester United." Of course, they get relegated, and he goes to play for Manchester United. And those are business decisions you have to make as a player.
Yeah,
I think no one's ever going to deny that kind of dream move. And obviously, he won trophies with Manchester United before.
Yeah.
They were a team with a budget that was oligarch worthy, but they just didn't have the oligarch.
Right. They went to
caught up with him.
They went to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Yeah. I know there have been very few English clubs outside of the big three. I mean, I don't even count City in that because they've only just done it the last few seasons. But if you take out United, Arsenal, and Chelsea, very few clubs have had Champions League opportunities. I believe Newcastle, Leeds, Everton, us, and obviously City. Yeah. It's not that many that have reached that holy ground, and very few less that have made it on multiple occasions, because then it is just City. I'm not sure if Leeds did it once or twice, but
think of the players they had. What a team they had.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, Viduka, Harry Kewell, Ferdinand was there. Woodgate, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. I mean, they had a loaded team. My God, they were good.
Well, and I think when Smith was on the books, I believe he said something about he was a ball boy, and Cantona had just left and came back with United and scored in the Leeds equivalent, their cop end, and he said I was just a ball boy at the time, but obviously he broke into the team pretty shortly thereafter. But
Lee Boyer as well when he was good. That's a good team. Anyway, enough about Leeds.
Let's talk about
Welcome to the Leeds America podcast.
My God, right? Where the hell did we go from championship,
relegation zone, League Two, and Conference Hotspur?
Let's have some Spurs now, please.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Dele Alli's MK Dons are 1 point back of. They're going to be in the playoff, but Preston looks like they're going to maybe stay up if they can get a draw or a victory, even on 89 points. And I have a soft spot for Preston for obvious reasons. Everybody knows why.
The Invincibles.
The
original Invincibles.
That's right.
Yes.
But yeah, let's talk about some Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and the Southampton match this weekend. When I think about that match, for me, obviously, Lamela scoring, even the way he scored, I was very excited.
Elbona.
Elbona. I like that.
Elbona? That's not Spanish for a hard-on, by the way. In case anyone wonders.
That's really clever.
Oh, man.
Chairman, or did you come up with that? That's quite clever.
I think I'll credit that to Wes Wells. Some smart aleck put that one. It's like,
So all the Hand of God, and I was part of it too. All the Hand of God goals, right? Immediately came out.
Oh, sure. It's an Argentine thing we don't understand.
It's a softball. Such a softball.
No, but no one even appealed. I found that amazing. There was one Southampton player who put their arm up like, hey, he put that in with his hand. Nobody
really had a vantage point. You know, look, I've watched that over and over. I probably watched that 10 times on video, and it's on replay. It's still not overtly clear. It looked like it got like sort of in between his elbow and his forearm. It wasn't his hand.
But the commentators, they got it spot on. His arms were in an unnatural position. It's like his arms were crossed as he went in. But who does that? You have them by your side, or they're out, but it's like they were crossed against his chest.
So based on the letter of the law,
because they were within the frame of his body, would it have even mattered?
I don't think so. I wouldn't. And you know the most ironic thing about that play is that they gave the assist to Harry Kane, which was really a bit of robbery for Dyer because it was a gorgeous cross. Which, by the way,
it was flicked on by Kane because I kept seeing 2 assists credited to Dyer, but I thought Harry got the last one.
He really touched it. It was about like what happened with Eriksen's free kick against Newcastle. No, but I mean his head. If it did, the hairs on his head touched the ball, but that was about the extent of how much he influenced it. I mean, it really the ball flight didn't change. I didn't think, but they got the assist, and it was a bit of a shame because if it wasn't for Dyer's cross, I mean, there certainly wouldn't have been a goal.
Yeah. But you know, even with him scoring, which of course I love, because he's my bromance player that's on the squad. The thing that stuck out for me the most was Fazio's ineptitude to beat Pella in the air 1 week after failing to beat Benteke in the air, both resulting in goals. If that guy cannot win a ball in the air against an opposing striker, he is absolutely, to quote the chairman, pony, and does not deserve to be on this squad. I cannot think of any other reason why I want Federico Fazio on this team other than to win headers in the air against other strikers, and he's failed miserably 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it is a bit surprising, right? Because really for most of the season, that's one area that he's generally speaking been really good. And he's failed to talk about a failure to launch. I mean, he hasn't gotten off his feet.
Yeah, well, I think for the Benteke game, what wasn't last week, it was the week before Newcastle, he didn't seem to get any lift on that one. And then the one against Pella, he seemed to just not even have him close. He was kind of leaning towards it, so he was never going to get any lift on that. It's like he was almost off balance. Yeah. He was trying to adjust to get close to the ball, and it's just poor positioning. And you know, I was definitely not impressed by him on the weekend. I kind of sarcastically applauded my television when he had a thumping header away from the near post, either on the corner or cross. And it was a nice header, but that was about the only time I noticed him have an impact on the game. And I think there was some discord. I think Vertonghen gave him some verbals, and I believe Bentaleb
did. Yeah. In fact, well. Pochettino spoke to it in the press conference and just said, hey, good look. I'm glad that we have players that are passionate and will get on each other, and we come back into the dressing room and all is forgotten. But it was poor play. But it's a bit ironic. I mean, Bentaleb. Oh, what was it? Oh, we lost Davis. Oh my God! If Davis could have finished on 2 occasions, I mean, we should have conceded twice there. And Bentaleb lost. And think of this. I was thinking about this. He's had a tendency to do this on a number of occasions, where inside the 18, Bentaleb has been very prone to losing his man, like not getting his head around, and he did it there. So, but anyway, passionate guy, and didn't want to see those kind of mistakes happen. Good for him for giving him the ball.
So, talking of mistakes, I know that the Mason Davis circus on the first Southampton goal created a lot of debate across the Twitterverse and other social media platforms, and probably down the pub. But let's talk about that, because some want to lay the blame completely at Mason's door, and some want to lay it at Davis's door. So, what do you guys think?
It was a combination of a giant cluster. It really was, because listen, Mason, for as much